Episode 6 of The Executioner and Our Way of Life was absolutely fantastic. Mad Momo was just too dang good. Dang, that was a great scene. I had to clip it and throw it on Twitter. That was too fantastic. Akari was right. I need to let her go berserk for a little bit, and sure enough, I was kind of trying to figure out what she was doing with the ribbons, and then I realized it was like causing it to decay or something like that. But yeah, a lot of really crazy reveals. I mean, they did this before with the train sequence, but they're doing it once again, this whole idea that Momo just kind of figures it out, which I'm always mixed on. Like, on one end, I want it to be a mystery to Momo a little bit longer, but at the same time, I like that she's at least figuring things out. Like, she's not dumb. Momo's not dumb, and she's figuring out what Akari is. Like, at the end of the episode, she's like, well, apparently, Akari's been from the future, okay? So she's already figured it out. I thought I was smart, but she's figured it out apparently. But yeah, quite an episode overall. I really wasn't, I obviously was trying to figure out how Momo was going to go against Orwell last episode. And the last thing I could really think of happening was Akari basically awakening. She's there, she's about to be blanched, and she taps into her full memory. And this kind of answers the question that I had, which was, I was assuming that Akari was going to be deceptive. Like, she knows all along that she's reset things, but she's trying to play the part. So it ended up being a little bit of both. We have now confirmed that, essentially, in the past, technically, they got all the way to the point in which Momo apologized to Akari, says, I was trying to find a way to kill you. And then Akari's like, you should have been. And Momo says, how could I now that you've introduced me to friendship? Momo has finally learned what friendship is, and so she was unable to kill Akari. And so obviously, she probably went up against Flare, because that's when Flare shows up after Momo turns to salt. And we find out that Flare was wielding the Sword of Salt. So the thing that has caused catastrophes, has wiped out an entire nation, Flare is wielding it in order to defeat both Akari and Momo. Now, I don't think that she wanted to take out Momo, but that was probably because Momo was protecting Akari. But yeah, and as she's about to kill Akari, that's when Akari rewinds time all the way back. It hasn't quite yet at this point revealed at what point, but the assumptions, it would probably been back to the point in which Akari first met Momo. And not only that, but it implies that Akari essentially removed all of her memories, or at least locked them away, and left only behind one thing, and that was her dire love for Momo. So that's why Akari is so emphatic about being around Momo, and why she loves her so much is because she left behind that sense of love for Momo, which allowed her to be so willing to trust Momo and follow Momo and not want Momo to leave. So at least we get an answer there. My whole thing was, I was assuming that she was being deceptive this whole time, that she knows about the future, she knows what's going to happen, but it's more the fact that she just only left behind her love to Momo, and that's why she's so willing to be around her. But yeah, as she's about to be blanched, she awakens herself and just starts going crazy. I like how she basically erases everybody. I don't know if it's implying that she essentially turned back time on their entire existence to where they're nothing, or if she rewound time for everybody and to send them somewhere else. My assumption there is that she basically erased them, just rewound their entire existence. And she's like, well, I don't want anybody to kill me except for Momo. And she also tries to stop the form that's coming down, which she says, no matter how many times I do this, I could never stop it. Thus implying that they have done this a lot of times. This isn't the first full reset. This is implying that she's done this multiple times. As to how many times it's going to be, we don't know at this point, but that's something to note. And of course, at this point, she's trying to decide what she wants to do to basically resolve the situation. She's like, I don't need to reset things. This is a good one. We have a good timeline here. All I need to do is add a little bit of deja vu, and unfortunately, let's make Momo go crazy. And so she uses time to basically make the bands themselves decay. I thought she was going to teleport Momo and Ashina up to where she's at, because I think it says something about the effect of the scripture or whatever, the concept or whatever, says something to the effect of teleport. So I'm guessing she just teleported herself or the magic to her to decay her ribbons, which would set her off. And then she, again, leaves behind the feeling of love to Akari and removes the remaining self of her and locks it away. And yes, that's when Momo goes crazy. She says, I thought I protected them. Her ribbons decay, and she just goes absolutely nuts and just destroys everything, like castle and all. She's like, I don't care what gets, like, she's tapping into the earthen vein or something like that, and Ashina's like, you can't do that. You're gonna destroy everything. She's like, I don't care. All I care about is Momo. Everything else should die. She just blows it all up. It was so great. And then she goes over to Momo's side after just destroying the force field that Orwell had created. Yeah, I like how Momo says something like, you know, you got a lot of things on me or something like that, but the one thing that I really like is that, or the one thing you can't have on me or something like that is I have a really great pupil or something like that. It was great. So Orwell and Momo's side of this whole thing. And this is where we get into Orwell essentially pointing out that, yes, she's been basically working on this project this whole time. She's waiting to see how Momo would develop after being blanched and everything like that. It does get into her essentially admitting that she created the disaster that almost killed Momo. That because she was practicing this blanching for so long in order to get a pure concept, she's had experiments go bad, and one such one was the girl that wiped out Momo's village. So we kind of have an idea there. Again, initially it insinuated that this student that caused this disaster around Momo caused it because she used her power too much and went crazy, but now we find out it's because Orwell was trying to blanch her and remove all of her essence to take her pure concept. And the after effect was this disaster. And she even notes that Flare probably knew at that point that Flare was onto her. But yeah, now Akari's there, Momo shows up, she's still super mad. It does seem like Momo's still trying to cover up Akari's eyes so that she doesn't know that she knows Momo. I was assuming that's what that was implying. I don't know why she continued to cover her eyes unless she just didn't want her to see her kill Orwell. But Momo did end up trying to use Flare's identity to throw off Orwell, which was a little bit of a bummer. I thought that was going to be like the big moment, like, yes, I called it. Flare showed up and then Flare's going to wreck Orwell. No, it was just Momo trying to throw her off. And that's when Momo realizes, obviously, that she doesn't have the power to take down Orwell. She's tried a couple tricks, didn't work. So the only thing that she has left to do is tap into Akari's power, her pure concept, and that's when she looks into Akari's eyes. Even though it's supposed to be against the rules or something, you're not allowed to do it, she still does it because otherwise she's going to die. And that's when she kind of gets an internal vision of a lot of things inside of Akari. She gets overwhelmed with the stuff. It doesn't really get too much into what she essentially sees in there, other than her seeing the classroom that she kind of wonders, if I die here, I wonder if I can go there. And that's when Akari shows up, stops her from trying to cut herself, and says, no matter what time or what we do, I will always be your best friend. And that cuts to Momo using the pure concept as a time aging that ages Orwell to where she's pretty much gone. But it was interesting because following this, they had a little discussion between Orwell and Momo where she does ask her, why aren't you using your scripts? Which I sort of connected with the previous episode that Orwell was using these crystal gem things, which I think were something that I think the original Sins use. I think that's connected to the whole red gem thing, the thing that she used in order to create this big gargoyle thing. They haven't really explained all that stuff quite yet. But yeah, I guess it does make sense that she has not been using scripture like Momo does, like Flare does. She has been specifically just using these gems. And so Momo's asking, why aren't you using the scripts? Probably like you could probably have beaten the crap out of me with the scripts. Instead, you're just using the staff that has the gems in it. And that's when Orwell says, I was trying to essentially create her own path. Like she felt like this was a feature that I wanted to create. So I wanted to go my own route, essentially forge her own path. And if it was the just path that she wanted, it would have worked out, I guess. And she does ask Momo if she's found that path or something like that, which I don't know. I'm assuming probably the light novel explains that a little better. I could assume that's probably Akari will be her new path. Yeah, that's what we have in the final scenes. Like I mentioned earlier, Momo and Momo discussing, I guess, essentially what Momo was able to see inside of Akari, which implied that, yes, Akari is from the future, the time has been reset, and that she does technically have some sort of involvement. But of course, turning it into this thing where I'm going to continue to travel and I'll figure out a way myself to kill Akari. So it's almost this thing where she's kind of accepted the situation she's in right now, but that she must continue this path that they originally forged with her original training with Flare, that she will continue on to figure out a way of killing Akari, despite the fact that this whole ritual thing was all a ruse. And yes, she gave Momo the new scrunchies, which she's super happy about. So happy Momo, happy life. I think we do need to establish at this point that Momo's going to be going up there in the rankings of best yandere. I think at this point I'm already kind of sold on her. So, and then following this, the very last part is Akari waking up from a bad dream, going to Mono's side, and then it kind of insinuates that the bad dream that Akari had was seeing Mono crumbling away in salt, and then Flare coming to her to finish her off with the sword of salt and her resetting everything. So yeah, this episode pretty much put everything out there. So I've seen some comments in the last video saying, you know, basically that there's a great stuff coming in the next arc, which is really good to know because I feel like they've essentially revealed everything at this point. So, I mean, besides the fact of Akari and Mono bond getting stronger and then eventually Mono fighting against Flare, I'm curious at this point what else they have available to it. I mean, obviously they could probably get into the original sins. That seems to be something they keep bringing up, but yeah, where to from here? Everything's pretty much revealed at this point, so I'll be curious to see if there's some really good writing still left in this show. All I can think of is possibly them going up against another really strong pure concept. I can see that being probably something that they would have eventually in the cards for a story arc. But yeah, it feels like with the 6th episode we've wrapped up a core, like we've wrapped up a chapter. It's like done, volume closed, but we'll see where it goes from here. But that's my thoughts on episode 6 of The Executioner and a Way of Life. Definitely enjoy this episode. It was a fantastic. Momo going crazy was awesome. Again, everything pretty much being revealed around Akari at this point. But we'll see where it goes from here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what's the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon or through our tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.